Hey folks, in this video I'm going to talk about updating and comparing values. So let's say we've got a variable score and it's sitting at 10 points and we want to update that score. Maybe we shoot a basketball in our game or something, or we kill a troll, we get some points. We want to add 5 points to it and we run it. Cool, we're at 15 points, that makes sense. There's a bit of a problem though. The problem is that if I was to print the variable game score, even though I've added 5 points to it, first one's 15, the second time it's 10. The reason is that this variable score, even though I've added 5 to it, it hasn't updated it permanently. It's just storing it just for this specific code. It's not telling us like update it permanently, right? So we need a bit of a fix. And it's pretty intuitive, I think. What we do is we go score plus equals 5. That's it. That's the whole shebang. Okay. Then when we run it, okay, it's 15. It's been updated. Really important that you don't have any spaces between your plus and your equals. That's generally speaking the only error that you can get. Other things that you can do is you could do subtraction. Maybe you take some damage or whatever. From your health bar, we're at 7. You could also use a times. This is Shift 8 on your keyboard. It's just a little star. If you use something like an X, unfortunately that is not going to work. So Shift 8 would work. If I was to do this, we've got 30. And the opposite would be division, which we can do a slash there. Maybe I'll divide by 2. And yep, we've got 5. Cool. All right. Let's move on to floats. So floats are a number that has a decimal, not whole. Okay. And if you were to compare this to what we learned last lesson, integers are whole numbers. So e.g. 54, okay, that's a whole number. And in this case, this could be like 4.2, 17.823, even 10.0. We would call this a float because it's got a decimal point on it. And the question is that you have to ask yourself, would you use a float? Would you use an integer? Could you do both? When is one better than the other? Floats are generally better for gradual change, whereas integers are for bigger change when you're going to update them. Let's give it an example. If I had, coins equals 3, and then I want to update, I pick up a coin, plus equals 1. Actually, I don't even think having a space matters. Yeah, I reckon you can still do that. Anyway. Okay. If I've got 3 coins, I add a coin, it's 4. It makes sense to have an integer for that, and that sort of thing. But maybe you got a health bar, right? And look, maybe you started a whole number, but then you want to, you take some damage or something like that. A sword hits you. And maybe you take half a point of damage. Well, what's our new health bar? 9.5. So that's a float. It's up to you if you're going to use floats or integers. Do you really need to know the difference between the two? Most of the time, not. There is one area where it pops up that you do need to know the difference between a whole number and a float, or an integer and a float. And that is in our user input thing. Okay, so let's say we've got this health bar, and rather than just applying that modifier, I say how much health, I would say health equals input. Now I'm remembering. Okay, damage equals input how much damage do you take? Okay, there we go. I'll put that in because we're going to be converting it to an integer. And then we say print health minus damage, like that. Okay. If I was to run this and I take half a point of damage, creature swings at me or something, we get this error. And it's because, well, it wants it to be an integer, but it's not registering. It thinks it's got to be a float or something like that because I put in 0.5. So the way around this is, rather than using int, we just use float. And if I run that, how much damage do you take? 0.5. It works fine. That's really the only time you need to know the difference between a float and an integer. Aside, also kind of I guess in your planning, but in terms of coding, this is the only time. The last bit, which is useful, is our greater than and less than symbols. So that's the greater than, and this is our less than. And the way I remember it is just simply 10 is bigger than 3. The way I remember it is, if you look at this arrow, this side of the arrow is the bigger part of the arrow. This area is smaller and this is bigger. So what it's pointing to should be the bigger number. That's how I remember it. There's something about crocodiles and stuff like that. It's whatever works for you. But if I went print 10 is greater than 3, if I hit run, it's true. This is called Boolean logic. We'll go into this in a lot more detail later because it's pretty good, especially when you need to have an inventory and things like that. But for now, we're just comparing numbers. Is 10 greater than 3? True. If I was to flip it around, is 10 less than 3? False. If you guessed that was going to happen, you are correct. So that is the greater than and less than symbols. The last thing I will show you is just combining a bit of this together. Health, and I think I'll go, are you alive? This is just sort of combining all of these things together. Okay, so we could have some health. We have a health bar. We've got 1.5 health left. And then we take some damage. But this damage is going to kill us. And we want the game to be able to register, okay, you have died. You've got no health. So we set up the equation, health minus equals damage. Okay, so we're linking these two together. It's going to update that variable health. Then we'll print health. We'll print that just to show what it is. And then, are you alive? It can only be alive if our health is greater than 0. Let's hit run. We are at minus half a health. Are you alive? No, you're not. We can't lift that. So, hopefully that makes sense. Useful tool. Take it easy.